I just love the feel of it. It's an old car, so it drives like an old car, but I love driving an old car. I own a 1965 Lincoln Continental sedan. A 65 Lincoln Continental, 18.5 feet long, 10-foot wheelbase, 4-door sedan. It's got the rear opening and rear hinge doors on it. It was the height of luxury in the 60s. They were competing with Rolls-Royce. They were killing Cadillac. It had power everything, power windows, vacuum door locks, power seats, air conditioning, cruise control, self-dimming high beams. Everything you can think of, they put in these cars. And in 1965, they were the same price as a Rolls-Royce. So they were super expensive. I met Jim Powers, and Jim Powers is one of the designers of the Lincoln Continental. And I asked him about the Lincoln, and he said, we designed the Lincoln for men. He said in particular, the 66, 67 dash, people call it the lunar module or the refrigerator dash, right? Just big, giant, flat stainless steel dash. And he said, we wanted everything in front of the man with big, chunky knobs and dials and big buttons for him to hold on to and push, and we wanted it to be masculine. We were marketing it to men. That's what he told me, and then when I drive it, that's what it feels like. There's nothing dainty about it. It's a big, giant, lumbering beast. And I asked him about the rear hinging doors. He said that was not the original design for the Lincoln Continental. So he said in '61, when they were pushing the Lincoln to be premiered, the B-pillar that comes up out of the floor was not structurally substantial enough, because it just had a small post, to hang the door on, to have it open up in a regular way. And so the rear of the car was the sturdiest, most structurally sound part of the car to hang the doors on. So at the last minute, before their deadline to get it to the show, they decided to put the rear hinges on the door and have them open like barn doors in the middle. That was not the original design. It was a time crunch thing. And they kept that to '69. But Jim knew that. He's the one who told me that. It's got a 430 cubic inch V8 MEL motor. It's Mercury, Edsel, and Lincoln. So it's a motor an engine that they only put into those 3 brands of cars. So they made a 430 cubic inch, and then they made a 462 cubic inch later on. The biggest concentration of them, and I've talked to a lot of people in the Lincoln game, are in California, Southern California, because of the climate. Everything rusts out in the Midwest and near the ocean and everything else. Most of these were owned by doctors and lawyers and businessmen and stuff like that. They were gigantic luxury cars. It had no reverse in the transmission. I put a fuel pump on it, I put some fresh fuel in it, and it started and it ran. I think the first thing I did was take it for an engine rebuild. I had the engine rebuild locally by a family that's here in Reno Valley, old school. I knew that was the right shop to do it, because I pulled the car up, parked it out front, and the old man who owned it, his son was taking over. He walked out, he looked at the car, and he said, oh, 65 Lincoln, that's a 430 MEL. It's about $2,100 to rebuild. So then Hall's Engine and Transmission in Reno Valley did the engine. They took care of everything. So I had a friend who was working at Brake Masters, and I took it to my buddy. Shout out to David Taylor. David redid all the brakes from the master cylinder, new lines, all new brake components, rotors, drums, brake shoes and pads, everything, and got the brakes done. So I took it to this guy's shop off of Van Buren. He rebuilt the transmission, and then the car was running great. So then from there, I pulled the interior out. My buddy Wes from Cadillac Kings, shout out to Wes Hornung, he called me and said, hey, I know somebody's doing paint, Fusion Paint out in Rialto or Rancho. They're gone now. I took it there, they painted it. So they sandblasted it to bare metal and straightened it out, and then coated it in PPG black and clear coat. And I had pulled the upholstery. I pulled all the seats and door panels and stuff out and dropped it off at an upholstery shop locally here in town, Chacon's Upholstery. Rest in peace, Chacon. He's gone, but he did the interior. When I got it, it was green. It was green on green. So I started buying black interior parts. Dash pad, dashboard, visors, trim pieces that were black, a package tray that was black. I found all these black parts. So I found everything in black. And now I've got a black car with a black interior that's running and driving. And so I threw some white walls on it from Performance Plus in Long Beach. I drove out there and they threw a set of white walls on there. And that was it. I started driving to car shows from that point on. A 65 Lincoln Continental drives like an old car. Doesn't drive like a new car at all. They were luxury in the 60s and now it drives like an old car. They're smooth, they're quiet, but it handles like a brick. It takes double the length of time to stop. It takes 10 extra seconds to get on the freeway. It's got a torquey motor in it that gets it moving, but this is not a fast car. A lot of body roll. You can't take corners fast. If the freeway off-ramp or on-ramp says 55 miles an hour, you got to be doing 55 miles an hour. You hit 57, 58, 59, and the tires start barking because they're just big, heavy monsters. So, you know, driving it is fun. Driving it's a pleasure, but I wouldn't drive it far. I've driven it to San Diego, but I wouldn't drive it to Vegas. But really, it's just an old car. I love driving it. I just love the feel of it. It's an old car, so it drives like an old car, but I love driving an old car. It's the big luxury cars that really are, that's the car that I really like. I really like cruising a big giant American car. I talked to a couple car clubs locally and I said, you know, I think I want to start a car club. And everybody said, yeah, do it. You should do it, you know. We had a meeting in August, Sancho's Tacos in Huntington Beach. And so there was probably a dozen people there that first meeting. Yeah, that's where it started. And then little by little, we started going to shows. We started putting together our own shows. The first year was like 40 Lincolns, and then the next year was like 50, 60 Lincolns, and then 70, 80 Lincolns. And now we put on a show called Kings Fest, and that includes our sister club, the Cadillac Kings. They made 1 million Cadillacs. You know, I mean, they literally made, I don't know, a couple 100,000 a year for decades. You know, Lincoln's, I think the highest production a year for Lincoln was 65, and they made like 40,000 of them. The years before and after were in the 20s and 30,000s. They didn't make very many. So they're super rare. You can't find them like you do Volkswagens and Cadillacs and, you know, Camaros. Mustangs, I made 1 million of them. I think Lincoln people they're classic car people, but they're really passionate about the Lincoln brand. And 60s Lincolns, these Lincolns with the center opening doors, people are just really loyal to that brand and that style of car. But really, we just want to get together and have fun. Cruise our cars, go to shows. That kind of camaraderie is what I think everybody's in it for. They admire the car, they get a car, they start working on the car. When they start working on the car, they need support. There's almost no reproduction parts for these cars. So you can't open up a catalog like you can with a Mustang and just start ordering reproduction parts. There's just no such thing. Most of the parts come from parts guys. We know a handful of guys that strip parts cars, junk cars, and then resell the parts. And you got to know who's got the best prices, who's got the best parts, who you can trust. There's a lot of scammers out there. And then if you want to know how to make the repairs, you should talk to somebody who's done it. When you're in a club and you're in a community like this, you get a lot of support. My dad liked classic cars. He always had a lot of cars. He had an Austin Healey that was sitting in the garage. I'd spend hours and hours in the garage pretending I was driving that car when I was really young. So I think that kind of started the classic car thing. And when I was in high school, I was working with my stepdad, and I remember driving through a neighborhood, and somebody had their garage door open, and they had 2 Lincoln Continentals parked in there. And I don't think I had seen a Continental before that. And when I saw it, I fell in love. That was kind of the top of my list. I didn't want a Camaro. I didn't want a Mustang or a Chevelle, you know. I fell in love with the Lincoln. I love classic cars, but I do love big 60s and 70s luxury cars. So Lincoln, Cadillac, models of Lincolns. The Mark V, I love. The town car from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I've had a bunch of them. Yeah, even like the European cars. I like Volkswagens. I got 3 of them at home. I like Volkswagens. I like Ferraris. I like really old Corvettes. Working on and building cars is just a hobby. When you're young and you can't afford a mechanic, you got to fix things on your own. So, you know, I started working on cars as soon as I started driving, because every car I drove was a piece of shit, you know. But it's been fun now, you know, as a hobby. And since I'm retired, I spend a lot of time in the garage just working on cars. It's just a hobby. It's just fun. Thank God my wife is patient. It's these luxury cars from the 60s really does take me back to a time where I guess it was America. It makes me think of Southern California and the businessman back then who was driving to the office. There's a cigarette lighter and ashtray in every door, plus one in the dashboard, right? And so it just reminds me of like smoking a cigar, driving your big car. That old Americana, that luxury feel to these cars is what really attracts me to it.